Good evening and welcome to DarkHour Paranormal. I am your host this evening, Michael Roser. And tonight, I welcome back with open arms a fantastic past guest. Folks have been talking about him since he's been on the show. I've seen him on other shows as well. Folks, I'd like you to welcome back Keith Anthony Blanchard, author, experiencer, ET contact, spirituality as a focal point. This man is very interesting, and I'm honored to have him back with us this evening. And thank you all for joining us tonight on this lovely Friday. Getting chilly out there, I've noticed, but then the next day is really warm, and the next day is really cold, the next day is snowing, and the next day it's tropical. So, I mean, you never really know what it's going to be here in New England, but wherever you are in the world, I hope you're doing well tonight. And I'm not going to make this a really long-winded intro here. In my opinion, I don't think this gentleman needs much of an introduction at this point. He's been out there. His voice is loud and clear. His literature is also available. This man has a lot to share. And once again, I want to thank you all for being here. And without further ado, I'm going to bring Keith Anthony Blanchard back to the show. Good evening, Keith. How are you tonight, mate?
What's up, Brett? I'm good. Having a good time. Just I was looking forward to being back in space with you, and so thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Yeah. I've been thinking about it since the last broadcast that we did together. Just some of the insightful things you shared about your own journey, your time in India, and, you know, the wisdom that you've garnered through your travels is absolutely fascinating. Tonight, I have some very interesting questions for you, and I think we're going to have a very engrossing conversation. So without further ado, let us start off here. Okay, so get us ready here. Why do you think some souls have such trouble crossing over into the light that they consciously express their discontent in reality? And when I say that, I mean in respect to perhaps human spirits who are not yet completely in the light, still in that in-between. They have passed over, physically they're gone, and yet they're here manipulating our environment, perhaps out of anger, distress, and so forth. And as a follow-up to that one, or an add-on, what challenges might children face in the crossing over process?
People that pass over and come back to cause vexation, if that's what you mean, anger, confusion, well, that's the reason they haven't crossed over is because they're the ones embodying those principles, not really a principle, those nonsensical ideas, and they're using them as tools. So as long as they are playing with these models, they can never cross over because you can't bring that nonsense to a level of order because it would create a cancer cell that potentially can divide and bring the whole cosmic system down. It will never, never happen. So they get caught in this realm, and a lot of it can be simply because in this life, the life they just left, that there was just large amounts of ignorance. They were just ignorant. They were never made available to the information that can help them become lighter while they were here, so that when they finally did cross, that they would be in a lighter nature. They will. Some of the masters will tell you that when you die, God forbid it be of cancer, but when you die, the one thing you want is to be as conscious as possible. So if they know that you're going to pass within the hour, don't supply any drugs. You want to be clear as much as possible. And I know that's not really our choice, depending on situations. The question of, could you repeat the question about children again, please?
Sure. What challenges might children face in the crossing over process? I remember I was watching a show earlier today, and one of the gentlemen that was on was a ghost investigator, and he had mentioned, this was on Alien Addicts channel, guys, by the way, so go and check him out. It was a fantastic interview today with a guy named Jeff. And I asked what was something that he's learned directly from spirit in his investigations, and you know, though his answer was more confusion than answers for him in terms of that, he mentioned that he didn't understand how children would have trouble crossing over, you know, why they would still be here in that vibration. I mean, you know, most of us would think this is a pure energy. It's closer to the source, you know what I mean? Because it's just come into form. You know, how could they be getting stuck here? Why would that happen?
One, I think a lot of it could be Hollywood, because what is scarier than a little girl going in a corner than someone who died who was just an asshole. But also, I think it will help to not see them as children, just as souls. Because souls come in with karmic attributes that need to be completed with. And whether they last, 7 years, 70 years, it's just souls coming in, doing their dance, hopefully graduating into a greater arena. But I think some of it can be the focus of Hollywood and how, some people are scared of clowns. Some people are scared of little children with dark circles in their eyes, right? And with this dead, soulless look. I actually really don't have the answer to that. I'm fumbling around trying to find one, but using my logic and my understanding of spiritual growth, I really don't think it's about an age issue. In fact, it is an age issue. It's an old soul age issue, or a young soul age issue, rather, versus being how old you are physically on the earth.
I would absolutely agree with that, actually. So that actually kind of leads me to my next question, which is, at what point in your understanding do we actually leave the personality or the ego behind and go through that light? I mean, I've been told that it's a personal choice on the spirit's end, but even in astral projection, there's a level of ego dissolution. And I'm wondering if that extends after you've passed on, going up a little higher in the vibrations, because I'm not necessarily sure that when you're astral projecting, you're actually in the same dimensional space as perhaps somebody who's passed on. In my opinion, I think that person might be up in a higher level of vibration or a lower level of vibration. At what point does the ego dissolve?
Well, the fact that you can astral project and you may have an experience with a deceased loved one, is because the astral realm is the ground where you meet, is the meeting ground. It's, I'm going to meet you. You're here on Main Street at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and you go to the meeting place, and when you're done, you go back to the body, and they go back to where. So I think it's a community ground. And what point does the ego dissolve? Really, the spirit has no involvement, because the spirit is already dissolved of ego. So it knows it will last and be itself forever. So it doesn't have the want nor desire to change anything for the human aspect of itself. That's the whole reason the soul or the spirit of that person came in the first place to the earth, was to simply be human, as long as the human chose. Now, when the human chooses to reach upward, then the divine reaches downward to grab your hand. But it will only pull you so far. So it ultimately comes back not only to choice, simply wanting it. And there is a difference between I'm making a choice and I simply want it. Choice is made when what you want happens immediately. That's when choice is made. Now, it may take a period of time for what you're really wanting to show itself up. But the reality of it is how you feel when you finally say, I'm done. I'm making a choice. I quit. And not quit by giving up. I mean I quit my own internal nonsense. I just simply release and let go. That's a choice being made. Until that is taken in that moment, everything else before that is just dabbling. Choice implies I made a choice. It doesn't imply, kind of just monkeying around with it. And that's just looking at it and smelling it and tasting it and see if they're really interested in making a shift.
Interesting. I like hearing different people's perspectives on this, because again, as I go through all of this field and, talk to so many people, there again are consistencies that I pick up. And I just think that's so cool. The consistencies mean so much, because this is not necessarily a tangible subject in certain ways. And yet there are similarities between experiences that we can say there might be some validity to that. And perhaps that is a collective experience that we may have, to look forward to. So let's talk a little bit about our present religious modalities in respect to spirituality. Okay. How can we present religious modalities? How can our present religious modalities benefit from the spiritual awakening that a good majority of us are embarking upon? Do you think that we will have religion the same way we know it now, 100 years from now?
It won't exist. It won't exist as a religion per se. It will exist. Some of them are just going to fade away. But for the ones that are able to stand in the storm, so to speak, and find their balance, it won't be religion as we know it. It's going to be a celebration by riding this particular way to Creator. There are many paths to the path, but there's only one path. You got Buddhism, Christianity, Muslim, Jainism, Judaism. Eventually, when all these paths get to the path, then the pathway drops off, because now I am truly crossing the bridge to my soul. When we bring our religion, not only our faith in Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, whatever it is, when you bring that into the experience with Creator, it all gets shattered. It all just simply gets shattered. It's just a bunch of man-made. It's beautiful in its own right when done in balance, but it's still a human construct. When you stand in the presence of the Absolute, there's nothing in there, and simultaneously there's everything. So I think the religions are going to be seen as one's personal celebration for their love for humanity and God, which is the exact same. But they're going to have to move into the experience of accepting that we are all one, whether this one's Buddhist and upset at the Christian, vice versa, and all that. We are all one. And so when we begin to realize that we are truly not just spiritual cliche, we are one. We are one. When we integrate that, it won't matter what your brother or sister is, transgender or otherwise. It simply won't matter, because we'll be looking at the preciousness of the individual beyond the meat suit. And that's where the celebratory nature of everyone comes into sharing and sharing alike. So I think the religions are going to fall away. In fact, the Catholicism is going to be the last church standing, ironically. Says Satya Sai Baba, in English language is going to be the final language.
That's very
final meaning, not
okay.
meaning everybody else is not going
mean,
to have a language and a voice, but it is already now. It is the language where everyone again goes to the common ground and meets, and it's the bridge.
And I would assume that, with this incredibly large earth that we have, with all these many different cultures that come together, eventually there should be a universal language that people would learn if they chose to. It would just bring us together a lot more. And I could see that, in different countries and how they carry, the perception of English-speaking people, and even going as far as that. Okay, thank you. Sorry, guys, my internet seems to be a little bit choppy here, so I'm keeping up, and I just want to let you know if you see me kind of looking around, it's because I'm making sure the lights are on the way they're supposed to, and so I'll just put that out there. All right, so folly. Okay, we can talk about folly a little bit. I remember reading Carlos work, and he had mentioned through his character Don Juan that folly was something that we would do as men, so to speak, okay, as the human that we are, and yet it serves us in a way, but at the same time it doesn't. Okay, how can you explain folly in the spiritual sense, and why is folly an aberration of creativity, and how can we recognize and overcome the spiritual tool that the way it was intended?
I use that word a lot, folly. I use it in the context that the definition is nonsense. In fact, the reason that we set boundaries for ourselves, this invisible shield in our mind, because it's a construct that we're saying, I'm setting a boundary for myself, which really doesn't exist except in the person's mind who believes they need to set said boundary to protect themselves from other people's folly. I've never heard folly used in the context that you mentioned, but I can now see that, which is folly. I'm hanging around, I'm jacking around, hanging out with DarkHour. Is that what you mean by in this context of folly? Just funning around, picking around kind of thing?
Kind of being caught up in samsara a little bit, I think, is the notion here. The third dimensional experience of everything. The belief that you are the personality, that your name, you know what I mean?
Well, then, yeah, now I get what you're saying. So that would go back to the person. their own nonsense. If you're caught up in the 3D world, then you're caught up in your own nonsense, your own folly. I like engaging in folly in that way. I like being human, and I'm a damn good human being. I like being human. I love being human. That's why we came, and now we got here. Some people are moaning and groaning and complaining, but efforting and straining. I just like being human, and I take it to the limit. And I jump. In fact, there is no limit. I create a new boundary. I create another layer, another layer, and another layer. But also in that, I understand, Keith, are you showing intentions for having fun and enjoying your time while you're here? Or are you becoming grounded so much that you're giving yourself a bunch of excuses why you like playing human so much? That's called choice.
Yes. That's the free will aspect of it right there. Well said, my friend. Very well said. All right, I'm sort of shifting through different topics as we go here, folks. It's a potpourri of questions tonight. Nothing too focused, but again, under the umbrella. So as a musician, you have an intuitive understanding of music as well as a logical understanding. How do the notes within a scale correlate vibrational overtones within our third dimension? It's often been said that we have 12 overtones with relationship with our 12 note scale if you count the octaves.
A lot of that digitally pixelated. Can you repeat that again, please?
Absolutely, and I apologize. How do the notes within a scale how do the notes within a scale correlate to vibrational overtones within our third dimension? It's often said that within our dimensions, we have 12 overtones of dimensions, just the same we do in our 11 to 12 note scale, including octaves.
The 7 notes in the octave would be the 8th of the scale. Let's say we do a G major scale. These 7 notes, they correlate to the 7 chakras. I think the heart chakra is F, so this would be E, B, C, and so forth, whatever they are. When we listen to music, it's definitely vibrating and shifting us into different dimensions. That's why some pieces of music you will find that will only stay in the key of C or in the key of whatever, because if the musician is intuitive and or spiritually aware, enlightened, to know that he's said something on purpose, he's trying to keep you in this frequency. And you may have even seen some of these musical titles on YouTube that say music to open the heart, music to clear the mind. So these are actually intentionally focused on said thing. Now, when it comes to music, sound is that which holds everything together. If anyone gets the opportunity, go to YouTube and look up a video called How Sound Creates Form. You will find many of them, quite a few of them, but the one I want you to find, some people are outside, there's a steel plate about 3 feet by 3 feet, and there's a speaker on it, and he throws some salt or sand on it. That's the one I want you to see. And he begins to manipulate or turn up the frequencies, and they start creating these geometric patterns. Many of you may have seen this before. So the name of the video is How Sound Creates Form. Sound is the glue. It's that which holds all the matter together. We may not hear those tones or frequencies. The empty space between the objects is tone. Now, when we look at a band who plays music, they're firing off this volume, this music. What happens on the dance floor? People form. So if sound creates form, it literally creates form. Like those individual grains of salt on that sound plate, as they vibrate to the music, it creates a form, a geometric form. Likewise, when you go listen to a band and people are jamming and it brings them to form on the dance floor, they begin to vibrate like those individual grains of salt or sand, and they're moving in a geometrical hopefully, maybe when everybody's doing the line dance, they're all in sync. So there's a balance there, if you will. I'm playing with these ideas. But yeah, sound will affect you. Be careful what you're taking into your auditory mouth. But not only that, you could be deaf and still be affected by the sound. By all means, it will pull you in regardless whether you can hear it. But the hearing component adds just another layer of being disturbed, of being pulled into said folly nonsense.
That's I really like the visual you gave on that. That was really cool. This is something that I brought up in another broadcast, just because I think this is so interesting. I'll bring it up to you. I was a black metal musician for many years. So for those of you who don't know what black metal is, pretty much the most insane and God, words are eluding me at the moment. I'm sorry. Intricate, dark metal that you can find comes from Norway originally. Okay. Now, one of the things that a friend of mine had told me, he said, just be careful about, what you're listening to, because a lot of those bands, and he wasn't necessarily targeting just metal, but there were a lot of bands that drew off of their own folklore and traditions that were incorporating old time signatures that were perhaps used in rituals of old and so forth. Do you agree that just listening to somebody who has put together music using some sort of ritualistic formula would actually have direct effect on the person who's there listening?
It all has effect. Now, how, somebody back in the day, many years ago, young children today, they playing that devil music. I get it. I truly get it. They may look at someone erroneously like AC/DC and think that they are... My point is, depending on the household and the mentality you have gleaned or gained from living in such household, even if you like whatever band that may bounce around and be loud as God knows what and screams a lot, it will have an influence on you, one, because of its influence organically. Two, what you believe about what you're hearing. Two, how your parents believe about what you are hearing. This all has a very, very powerful influence. Very, very powerful. But, we are always influenced and bombarded. In fact, everything about us is constantly being bombarded with light photons. Some photons come in and hang on for a little bit. Some come in and they bounce off others. Everything is moving at God's speed. Light particles, atoms, cells, vibration, and these little packets of light, audio vibration. So everything is always coming in, and the entire system is computing and throwing things out and grabbing new things. Nothing is ever static. It may appear static on the level that we can see things, but we are born every moment, renewed every second, every possible moment. Everything is completely different.
Fantastic answer. From the chat, I have Dawn asking, are you wearing turquoise or another crystal like blue jasper, or what do you got around your neck there?
Yeah.
It's
I
turquoise.
just got this recently. Yeah, a friend of mine went to Florida, brought it back, and I was like, wow, what a fantastic... And this gets a lot of attention. People ask about this particular beauty often, actually.
I would imagine it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's it pops even on the video here. It really does pop, man. Have you ever experienced or witnessed auditorial levitation while we're on the subject of vibration?
I love that you're talking about levitation when it comes to audio. The Buddhist monks, you go to the Himalayas, you don't see a dirt road that goes all the way up to the freaking monastery or whatever, the temple. You don't. It's because they don't exist. These monks, in their days of old, they would sit and do toning with their mouth and other instruments, and they would create a vibration so intense they would levitate these megalithic stones all the way up this mountain so they can build these said temples of worship. I have not had the experience of levitating by sound. I've seen it in videos. I've had some very powerful auditory experience. I would say that would be a true statement then, yes. Playing music, when I play music with people who really know what they're doing, we just get in there and we take the shoes off and we just close our eyes and we get in there and we're just going to build this audio masterpiece. And then we just threw this together. I've been playing with people so long and doing what I do so long. You know, five guys just getting together. Hey, man, you want to do a show? I got something booked. Sure. We get in there. Here's a quick song list. We know all the same stuff. Hey, Keith, what song you doing? Let's do a Long Train Running by Doobie Brother. We start playing it, right? And we all just get in there and we start digging in. That sound vibration does lift me. It does levitate what I know as me, more so than not, into realms of temples, so to speak. It does levitate, but in the physical way. No, but inside, music takes me to a place where I don't want to come back.
Oh, I understand that. Oh, I very much understand that. And I think that sort of feeling that when you're playing music and you get that vibrational lifting, it's a precursor that if you were to go further, intensify perhaps the volume or, manipulate the frequency in a different way, you might actually end up finding yourself physically lifting up. I think that if you were to go up that scale there, that would be what you'd find. The same way that if you, let's see, what is it? 440, I think is A. All right. 440 hertz. And if you were to boost that, I think by 40 times, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you get the color red. So it becomes light at some point if you were able to boost the vibration of that. That's so cool, man. But you're telling me that these monks this is how they were moving stones and how they would get themselves up and down, facades like that, and how they built the temples. Is this similar to what the Egyptians perhaps did, or whoever built the pyramids and other structures like that? Or were there other techniques
I'm not
involved?
saying that all of these temples, monasteries in the Himalayas are done that way, but there are literature, scripture, stories, testimony throughout Buddhism that will tell you, and also in India, that a lot of these megalithic structures were created through levitation. That's for sure. And what was the other part of the question, my brother? I'm sorry.
I don't know. It was sort of off the cuff. I was sort of thinking on the fly there. But I mean, in terms of auditory levitation.
Oh, you asked about you asked about
yeah.
the Egyptians.
The Egyptians.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say, I would say this would be true.
Sorry. Yes.
The truth is the truth. The truth is the truth, whether your skin is white, black, green, plaid, polka dot. I mean, it doesn't matter. So it just so happens that the monks, the Egyptians, the South Americans, whoever, they all tapped into that which is a power grid or a pyramid. Whatever that pyramid, be it a physical pyramid, they tapped into doorways that allowed them the knowledge and the power to move said megalithic stones, whether the stone is actually a stone of megalithic nature or if it's a megalithic aspect of oneself that has been set in stone and needs to be budged and moved. So sound can break that apart as well and levitate it, as I demonstrated when I play music and I get in there with these guys, world-renowned players that you've heard many of their songs on the radio. Point is, when you get into this kind of mix with others of said vibration, well, monks, Egyptians back in those days, these beings of said vibration, they play all in the same band, if you will. And so they're able to create form. Funny, isn't it?
Oh, that's fantastic. I tend to believe that there was absolutely some sort of energetic manipulation, and perhaps auditory levitation was at the base of a lot of how these constructs were put together. And again, here we go. Consistency, cultures, and perhaps what these monolithic structures have left behind for us to look at with their very smooth and precision cuts and the way that they were just put together so tightly. I mean, you can't even slide a piece of paper through it. We could go on for a long time.
I don't dismiss the idea that I don't dismiss the idea that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I know there's a delay. I don't dismiss the idea that there could have been higher level angelic celestial involvement by all means. Because I'm thinking from a Buddhist or a monk nature, he's not necessarily really concerned or is he, if the stone was cut to such mathematical proportions. I mean, I think, maybe there was a shake hands deal. You guys lift the stone and we'll shape the monument. I don't know, but I just do know that since you brought up sound and levitation, that this is not just a theory; it's actually the truth. That well, think of, if you guys have the time, get on Google and look up Coral Castle. This guy laid out this in Florida. In Florida, he created an entire castle out of stone, and the story is, do the research yourself because I don't really know. I just know that many people they are on board with it. They say that he didn't pay his taxes or whatever the reason. They were coming to take his house, stone house, and they were going to load up this truck. He says, "I want you guys to go have a sandwich behind that tree. Come back in about an hour. I'll take care of it." They said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Just go ahead and whatever." They come back. It was all loaded in a truck.
Yes, we know Coral Castle. Oh, we do. We know that one very well. That's and apparently, as the story goes, he started building some of what he was because of a broken heart.
Did I get the story somewhat close in my paraphrasing?
I don't know if there was another aspect of it. I mean, the story is a very large one, and there are many details to it, believe it or not, except that we never really found out how he did this. And whenever he was confronted, he wouldn't deny it. He would just say, I can't tell you. What did he say? I understand how they built the pyramids or something along those lines. He figured it out. So
he also had these two huge stones as a gate, an entrance. It was so balanced you could walk up to it and just push it, and it would, this freaking 10,000 ton two pieces of rock would just slowly but surely open. Yeah, I think
that's
the
amazing.
World is. I think. Well, I know truth is definitely comes through fiction, because if we think the absolute truth is what we know, then why are we not there yet? So it obviously lies in the nonsense, or what we're calling nonsense, or that which is always beyond our grasp. And when we can touch the garment of that level, then it steps a little further. And so we keep reaching, basically keep expanding and expanding and expanding. So that, to me, which seems not real, is more real than what we call real, because in this regard, the not real means infinite possibility. How can it not be possible if it crossed into your mind? Does said thing exist? Well, it already does, because you brought it into your experience through possibility.
100%. And as time has gone on, I've noticed that if you think of it, it exists somewhere out there.
And at least in that moment, it exists in your head.
Not to be grotesque, but if you yeah, well, it starts there. Thought is the precursor to manifestation, and drawing that to you, if it's already there, is usually the quick of the two in terms of how it's going to manifest out of nothing. But not to be grotesque, if you wonder if there was ever a guy born with a hand out of his head, I'm sure there was. You know what I mean? As fantastic as your imagination can be, something has happened along those lines, or you're looking at, I think, an exact reflection of reality. It's just fascinating, just absolutely fascinating, this collective reality that we create. Why do some gurus, and this does pertain to Sai Baba, but not so much, only because we kind of discussed his involvement with this, but there are many others out there, right? Why do some gurus and people of knowledge exhibit their magical abilities when many say doing so only showcases the ego? And in your opinion, how might one spot a charlatan from the real deal?
That is a fantastic, deserving, juicy question. And I'm grateful you asked it. And I'm going to tell you what I think, what I feel, what I know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, if you're doing it for the sake of showing off, you don't really have the power. You are a charlatan. Now, what some may call showing off is not what Sai Baba himself calls what he does, or called what he does, because he's no longer here. He said, "This is not a showboating of my power. This is evidence of my divinity." Changes the whole game. Some people need to be convinced. And it's their soul contract, agreement, their love for God and God's love for them, to say, you know what? Just for you, I'm going to step out a little bit more and give you something not everybody else is privy to. Let me go ahead and turn my hand and manifest a crystal ball for you so that when you look at it to ponder and meditate on all possibilities, you will see me as your guru saying, come this way. Some people need that. Sai Baba has created objects right in front of my face, changed the weather. He's not concerned what people think about him manifesting. That's what makes him even more pure. That people think just because he turned his hand, and why would he need to do that? What's his agenda? God is already turning his hand. The world is spinning. Everything is a miracle in the first place. But people want to use the idea that a man is doing it and call it something else. Well, everything you see, you and I dialoguing, everyone participating in this forum, this is all basically Sai Baba, not necessarily the being in the body, but the being without the body, manipulating the reality in the first place. For those, I think, that are casting stones about an avatar who can manifest or doing just that. They're casting stones via their ignorance and judgment because they honestly don't know what is transpiring, and the love from the guru who's doing the thing to call his children or his flock to him so he can bring everybody up with him. Not above him, but everybody up with him. Some of it is simply calling a spade a spade. You are a knucklehead, and I don't trust you. Because, you know what made it for me, for Sai Baba, was his character. Everything he said. You listen to his dialogue, read his work, it's like, whoa! There is a connectivity there that is beyond fight understanding. The biggest miracle I've experienced by Sai Baba, music, he's the vibration that formed 35,000+ people on his ashram together. Different codes, different creeds, different religions from all over the world. China, Russia, Egypt, America, everywhere. And everybody got along. And not only did they just get along, everywhere you would go, you'd say Saram. That means namaste, like Saram. Saram could mean excuse me, my apologies. Saram could mean goodbye. Saram could mean hello. Saram. And so that miracle of uniting this small world into 35,000 people exemplifies to me exactly who Satya Sai Baba is. But there are people out there who will sell you illusions, and they'll sell them to you really cheap.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a magician myself, I've seen people try to pass things off. Yeah, I mean, I look back at somebody like Uri Geller, who has been debunked since his time, but he was somebody who was so staunch about saying what I'm doing is the real deal. And we'd be let down so many times that sometimes after a while it becomes hard to actually see the real McCoy in front of you. But if you're able to kind of tap in yourself, you listen to your heart, you'll figure out what's real for you about somebody who's doing something like this. So that was actually a really good answer.
Absolutely. And I want to add this, my friend. Now here is the place in between. The place in between is Sai Baba has been caught on camera faking manifestations. Well, Keith, that just goes against everything you just said. I'm telling you, it doesn't. It takes a person to fake a manifestation. You have to manifest a fake manifestation. Well, this sounds like you just playing with words. What do you call that? Word salad. Well, I got some good salad dressing. Here you go. If everything is reflection and you always get back what you stick out, imagine what happens when you stand in the presence of a God man. The light says, yes, you can have it. And if you're standing in front of this light being and you're clear, your yes, you can have it looks very clear. And then you see the beauty of Sai Baba walking through the ashram and materializing a statue of Krishna right in front of your face. Or you could stand in front of a divine avatar who is the light, be it individually, or be it a group of hundreds of people, including the cameraman who caught the said fake manifestation, and he will tell you, yes, you can have it. And he will fake it right in front of your face. He's also said that the reasons for his manifestations in the first place is for your faith, your level of faith. It's truly for the simple act of faith. Do you believe that what is happening is real? Do you believe, first of all, foremost, do you believe it's even possible? And from that choice is what the next level will be. If you don't believe it's possible, you're going to be looking for things, and therefore you're going to see everything erroneously, and then see erroneous things, and then you're going to project that erroneousness onto the light and say, I caught him doing this fake manifestation. That is not the case for me at all. It's always yes, you can have it.
And people have talked about this sort of thing for a very long time. People have talked about those who understood, spiritual matters enough in history that they would be able to manifest something out of thin air. One of our earliest brushes with that is Jesus turning water wine. Do I think that's possible? Absolutely. In terms of the creative nature of our mind, the fact that we more likely, well, I say fact, but for me, it's a fact that we are creating our reality right here and now and in the future and past. It's all simultaneous. It's all in the moment. Yes, anything is absolutely possible. Let's talk about, again, a little bit about vibration in terms of sound, dealing with the voice. Okay. What is the significance of vibration in vocalization? It's been said that some can feel an old soul or hear one just by hearing somebody speak. Have you found that to be the case for you as well?
Without a doubt. Well, for sure. You look at someone who might be a president. Let's just say president. This ain't political, just a president. Someone who is a mouthpiece, regardless of whether you agree with said speaker, is irrelevant. There is an old soul that has been doing it so long, it's earned its way up the speaking totem pole to be the speaker of the world. That would be absolutely true in what you said, sir, for sure. But sometimes you can hear it in someone who can sing. Bro, I mean, any of us can just close our eyes and think of who is someone that you would say can just lay it out. There's something old there. Now, whether it's a new soul is not so important. What is important is the oldness of the voice, capital God voice, the perfection of a woman that sings like an angel. That doesn't come from a new soul. It might be a new soul person in the form of has not been here many times, but somehow a hole has been bored open directly from the spigot itself to say, and this person may be a savant. Think about a savant. Savant, they walked around in all their, what other people would call, strange behavior. But there is something magical and powerful and universal that lives in someone who can just never played the piano before. And they hear something, and next thing you know, with crooked hands, they're playing Chopin on the piano. So what is that? So the voice may show up through the gullet and through the voice box, but the voice really is not necessarily an audio thing. The voice is that chair you're sitting on, the chair I'm sitting on. It's the voice. The Word was with God and the Word was God. But yes, I would agree with that. You can definitely hear people sing and or speak and know that there's either a connectivity there or not. Connectivity would imply connection to God, which is ancient, infinite.
Something I came across recently that I thought was absolutely fascinating was I watched a show where they transplanted a voice box. I don't know if it was the first time it had been done, but it's a new science. And my expectation was that the person who received the voice box might sound a little bit like the person who had donated the voice box. And in that case, it just wasn't so. It wasn't this it had happened to him. It was not like he was born without the voice box, but it sounded like him originally. So yeah, I mean, there must be something intricately tied to the soul in respect to voice. There has to be.
Let me ask you this. You pixelate a little bit. Did you say that the voice box was transplanted, but the person still originally sounded like themselves?
Yes, they sounded like it was their own voice box. It didn't sound like the person who had donated it to them.
I understand. I would say in this regard, the voice box is just a machine. It's just It's just a glass. A glass does hold water. The water doesn't care. This one's glass, metal. There might be a glass. So I would think the voice box in this regard is an apparatus as to why it didn't affect the singer or the person speaking. I don't know that to be true. It makes sense to me. But when we get to someone getting a heart transplant, now we're truly getting into the essence of the soul that it came from. What is the heart? The heart is not a physical muscle. We call that the heart. The heart is a stargate for the soul to come in. So I think in the transference and the transplanting of a heart from someone, giving it to someone who can use it because they left, now we're getting into truly a personality. I don't mean identity. Well, there's an identity there because, but beyond that, we're getting into bridging the essence of myself with another self. That's why I think some people, when they get a heart transplant, they never really cared for beer and pizza, but when they wake up, they want a beer and pizza.
Very well put, man. And honestly, I love hearing your answers. I really do. And they're very comprehensive, too. Just gives me enough to think about, you know? I know you did a broadcast on the subject recently, but what is at the core of addiction? And how much does cellular memory play in the matter? Or genetics, for that matter?
All are true. All are true. All do have an influence. Absolutely. These variables are woven together, but we have to find ourselves together to unweave this tapestry of nonsense, this folly. What is at the core of addiction is trauma. Someone trying to fill themselves with something so they can feel the bliss and joy that is who they are at the essential nature, as their essential nature. I understand it. Deepak Chopra says, a world who has become addicted is a world moving forward indeed. I don't know the exact words, but this is the paraphrase version. When we want something to fulfill this empty space inside, it's a move in the right direction because we're wanting something. Now, it will run its course that you think you want drugs, you think you want alcohol, you think you want pornography, you want... Look, I'm human. I like a little bit of all of it.
No, we
When it runs its course, because when we get to the end of the race, we realize that at the end of the day, it was self-gratification and never really took us anywhere. But at the base of addiction, I would say trauma. It's the gateway. Trauma is the gateway drug. You have to go in there and find who you are. Go ahead, sir.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Okay. All right. Do you think that some people could be predisposed to that trauma if it's within the cell? So, for example, if my father was an alcoholic, you know, whatever his trauma was, do you think that could be unconsciously transferred and perhaps even unconsciously experienced and then, you know, brought up in
fantastic question. Life? That's a fantastic question. But that predisposition doesn't happen at birth.
Yeah.
It happens in soul choice. So even before then, who are going to be my parents?
Okay.
I got some lessons to learn. I got some expanding beyond these lessons to do. So John Doe and Jill Doe's family, that's where I'm going. And so through which, moving through the portal of the birth canal and through inception and conception, you get all the DNA junk that's going to assure that you're going to be in that situation. Right? It's the code that says, this is what you agree to. You bound yourself to a code beautifully. And it sounds horrible, that addiction and trauma. It is horrible. But when you're on that side of it, here's your life, the bad stuff. And when you're on that side, you go, oh my God, what a blast ride on the roller coaster that was. But yeah, I think there is a predisposition by choice.
Yeah. If it comes down to, you know, soul agreement, that makes 100% sense to me. It would fit right into that construct. Man, all right. Well, this is also, again, something for people to think about in relation to, you know, someone perhaps in their life or themselves who has had an issue with substance or, you know, I mean, not even necessarily to the point where you'd say, oh, it's an addiction. Maybe it's a fancy.
I would like to say when it comes to addiction,
things to think about, and that's what we do. We present these ideas.
You asked me to support, or you gave me the notion that you want me to support a little more about addiction. Here's the thing about addiction. Whatever it is you're addicted to, tell yourself it's okay. You're not giving yourself permission to continue into the nonsense. It's a way of honestly looking. I do this one heck of a lot. If you start feeling bad, boy, I sure do this a heck of a lot. I wish I could quit, and oh my God, I feel so bad. Now you put God into the situation because and your parents and media and society and all this. Bro, there's no way out of that. Before you add all of that stuff to the nonsense, there's a way out because you're being honest with yourself. It is quite fun. Do I really want to keep doing this? And now the devil shows up and says, shh, you go get in trouble. You should feel bad about what you do. And then that whole thing, that avalanche begins to crash down on top of you. And then you get lost by the crash and you can't find your way out. So if you have a strong liking for something, just simply look at it honestly before it grabs you by the boo-boo. And even so, look at it honestly again. But no amount of you feeling bad by trying to feel good will ever help you get out of your addiction. I don't care what they teach you. Because even if you go to AA or this one or that one or whatever program you go to, until you feel good about you, nothing will work. Nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. It is all about that self-healing. Yep. And being grounded. It's it's a big subject. It's a big, heavy subject, but it's something that it touches everybody in one way or another. I think it's something that perhaps is intrinsic to human nature, and maybe our focus is out of line. Maybe addiction in itself. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Let's move on.
I hear you. I understand where you were going with that. It's. We come from a long history of you better not, you should, you shouldn't, you can't, you're not worthy, you're less than. And all of this is, we talked about sound and how it has an effect on a human being. Imagine how many people up until whenever you left home, not blaming your family, but just when you left home and people's input other than you just living by yourself, how much of that sound and dogmatic stuff was pressed upon us. And so it integrated on some level and we believed it. Obviously, because we find ourselves in these situations of, cranking and yanking and spanking and doing all these things. And, are you having fun because you're human? You lose sight when you realize that there's a line. Here's the line. It's not a judgmental line. It's a fact of the matter line, which is, here's your humanity. Have a good time. That's why you're here. Enjoy yourself. Here's your divinity. Now you have a choice to make. Do you want to play back and forth, which is heaven on earth? I want to have my heaven and earth the same. Or are you showing intentions to constantly be in those vibratory things that just keep you in folly versus jolly?
Perfectly said, man. Yeah, it is a choice in the end, what path you want to follow. And, obviously the traumas that behind somebody, that's a driving force for a lot of people. If you don't, again, like you said, if you don't heal that, then it's really hard to move forward in respect to, anything else you want to tackle on a personal level. I love your broadcasts, by the way, and everybody should go and check out Center of Light. He does a fantastic broadcast. I love watching what he does, brings up a lot of great points, which here tonight is really only lightly touching on the subjects that he covers. But where did your inspiration come from to sit on a throne? And did you make this, or where did you get the throne? A lot of people like it, man. Just telling you.
It's not a throne, and I had no intentions of fashioning it to ever be one. But I'll say thank you, but that's not what it is. Actually, I moved into this new apartment because I was kicked out of my old one because I challenged the landlord about her loud dog barking at my door. Anyway, I found this apartment right before lock-in or lockdown or lock-up, and I just moved into this apartment, and I had this headboard and this footboard for my bed that I bought when I was married years ago.
Huh.
So I'm not one for decorating my bedroom to have nice sheets and clean sheets, but not in this cover and looking like this with pictures of my. I didn't know that. So I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? And I said, I'll just make it just a prop. And so I bought some salt lamps and I put it up, and I like flowers and it makes it feel a little more soft and respectful and altar-like, and put some candles up, and that's exactly what it is. Many people have thought this was my intention to create a throne, as if I'm. Well, it's not it at all. In fact, that's funny.
Have you ever had that question before?
I've had people say it looks like a throne.
I mean, people were asking this after your first show.
And, I never thought, even after it was brought up a few times, I never thought about taking it down because I don't see it from that perspective at all. In fact, if I saw it from that perspective, I would take it down because I would feel haunt. I'd become an addict about what people say and be affected, and I would continue to suck that drug teat. So and that has been brought up a few times. I just still see it as a headboard and a footboard holding up some very cool salt lamps, which is sort of an altar because below it is pictures of my son. You can see Buddha there, some ash, my sacred necklace that God realized men from India have blessed. It's basically it's just an altar for me. It's not nothing to do with the fact that I'm sitting in this actually $90 computer chair. It was never intended for that.
I'll be honest, it doesn't look like you're sitting in a different chair. It looks like that whole thing is a chair. And when this was brought up to me, however, they thought it was a really cool addition to what you were doing and your whole environment there. So, I mean, way to be really creative, man. It really worked out. I mean, and from where I'm at to that board with the stripes that go down. That's 8 feet. It doesn't look at all. It looks like it's right behind you. Wow. Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, Bam, if you listen to this, I know you were one of the first that asked me after the last show. There's your answer, my friend.
Who was that asked? Who was that?
There was a guy named Chuck Bam who comes to the show.
What's up, Chuck?
A very good friend of the show. And I'm not sure if he's here tonight, but he's usually here and he usually catches the broadcast after, so I know he'll hear that. But I thought that was a good question, too.
Right. It's not intended for that. It's just all I have.
Well, what are your thoughts on crystal skulls? Are they a magnet or a generator of energy, or are they both? Because there's been a lot of fascination around the crystal skulls. I mean, even Jimmy Church has gotten on that bandwagon and is promoting his own crystal skull, somebody who does crystal skulls as well. And you've got one too. What are your thoughts on those? Are they special? Is there something different about that, that carving than rather than just a crystal point?
Well, of course.
Gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you. It goes without saying, you show that to someone who is not of this way of thought, and they're running high cotton as fast as possible. What this really is, it's a piece of crystal. It's no different than this piece of crystal. What makes this crystal and this crystal different is the shape. If I was to shine, we talk about sound, let's talk about just energy in general. This has a shape, it's crystal. This has a shape, it's crystal. So what is the difference? One, size. But if you shine the light through this, it has a certain appearance. You shine the light through this, the light only accentuates the appearance of that which is being shown through. So in this way, they're the same. But the difference is this is actually designed.
Okay. Yep.
This is an amplifier for the musicians. This is an amplifier. You put information in it. For example, light is information. Sound is the glue. Light creates detail and form. Sound is the power and holds it all together. So this light is information. It's light information that I'm passing through this crystal ball, which actually amplifies it, as to why you see those. So it's amplifying the light. Now what this does is when you put light through a crystal skull, hopefully we all want to have crystal skulls, really, because we want to project or to become so clear in what we call our skull that the light can move through us unobscured, unprocessed, untainted. But the skull, as far as the crystal skulls, I think the shape of it, one, by looking at it, we understand it. It looks just like me. So I have one of those. So we automatically begin a marriage with the idea that it's a skull. On levels we don't understand, I think that it does have resonating properties that fit in our head a lot easier than something that may look different. I think they're all true. I think what we get out of objects, words, is truly a matter of interpretation. But some things do affect us on levels that we have no control, that we don't know that we're being influenced. And I think this actually has the capacity to do that. Some people say they house consciousness. Well, I believe it. In fact, I'm sure of it. Not because they house consciousness, they are consciousness, because if it wasn't, it couldn't exist. This being of light is named Deleuze, and it's called the light. It was gifted to
Deleuze.
Deleuze.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot, man. That's really cool. I mean, as I mentioned, a lot of people are very interested in these. I remember seeing the 13 famous crystal skulls back on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries in the 90s, and that was my introduction to them. But they've been around, and people have been fascinating the crystal skull. It's really interesting, man. One day I'll get one too. It's on my list of things to do. We still need to.
I don't know if you're waiting for me to answer. You have dropped out on me completely, my brother. But I am patient.
Yeah,
No, you're fine. I'm patient.
Sorry. Did you? Okay. All right. God, I'm looking at. You know what? This thing was working great today, and then all of a sudden, as soon as we do a show. All right. Let me reiterate that for you. Can you tell me why we still need to acknowledge our darker selves while we reach for the light in this incarnation? Why is it so important that we still need to acknowledge the darker side of ourselves when we all want to just be really happy, upbeat, and light people?
We can't do that, because going through the darker self is what it is required to be upbeat and happy light people. When we talked about addiction, we are wanting to be fulfilled. We have to fill ourselves with ourselves. And so the reason we must not ignore the dark. You shut the door to the devil, you will never find the divine. That's the point entirely. That's the metaphor for Jesus going to hell for 3 days. You have to go into your hell. You have to go into your trauma. Broham or mama. Get out of the drama before you can ever become a Buddhist Lama. You have to go into your nonsense. Many people think, well, you find God by the light. No, you don't. If you're in the light, you already see God. So you don't find God by the light because you found it, at least in that aspect. You have to go into your abyss and find what you have missed and expand that to the light. You have to enlighten that aspect of yourself. So all the broken, if you will, or the unilluminated fragments of your own consciousness becomes the light until it reaches a critical whole. And until then, you'll feel an empty hole. And just whatever else. So we have to find, you can only find your fullest potential through the stuff that has us bound, because when you break out of stuff, now they have an emptiness. It's potential. But as long as we cling and hunker down on these things, even people who don't dwell in the dark, that's actually being controlled by your own unconsciousness. It's already got you. And you think you're living out life out here wishing things were better. And you try and you try and you try and you struggle and you effort. But the monkey's got its meat hooks into you, talking to you on levels that's, you can't believe in yourself like that. Don't you go believing in yourself like that and start earning some more money. It won't ever let you do it.
Do you think that it's possible that duality, we can actually shake duality at some point? Perhaps not in our third dimensional space, but, when people talk about, God per se, it's always, it's me, them, it's a separation there. Do you think that one day that, please run, sorry, of consciousness here, consciousness, what was I asking? Oh, do you think we'll ever be able to transcend that 3D dualistic reality? Do you think that duality exists in other dimensional spaces as well? Say the fourth overtone is harmonious and whole. Fifth overtone is something else. What have you found in your research?
Duality, I dabble in it like a drug because I'm addicted to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing it. But I do play in the higher fourth, the fifth, the sixth, all the way up to the ninth. I've often play in the final vibration. So to answer your question is, this is not yay for Keith. This is, if I'm doing it and I'm the guy next door, nobody has an excuse. It just comes down to, is that what you want? And so people say, well, yeah, Keith, you've been doing this for 30 plus years, and, I don't know this is not about how long you've been doing something to become a master at it. You are already a master at knowing what it is you love to do. When you start doing what you love to do and loving yourself by doing that thing and just loving yourself, the mastership simply just peels away. It just happens immediately. Because in the moment that you're feeling such joy about doing those things, it doesn't get any better. You don't get any more illumined. When you do the things that bring you joy, it doesn't take, you can go do this thing that you love and 3 hours passes by and it's like, oh my God, is it already? Because you were in infinity. You were in no time. You don't get any better than that. What you really want is to stay in that field and expand it forever. That's the trick. So when you just love yourself, stop being hard on yourself, being light on yourself. There's no hunkering in and doing all these spiritual, ritualistic. Yes, these things have benefits, but it's more of a stop. Just stop it all. Just stop all the noise. And when I mean noise, I don't mean la 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 la. The world's loud, because if you're in la 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 la, the world's loud. It's noise in your head. So basically, when we be still and know that I am God, it does, but it doesn't necessarily end at I'm in meditation and I feel my connection. That's gorgeous. There's something else. What is it? I don't know. You tell me. Because when you're in the meditation of be still and know that I am God, how infinite is that reality for you? But when you take that and you put it somewhere else for the moment and realize that being quiet means to stop all of it. Not just the mind. Stop moving. Stop thinking. Stop believing. Stop. Exist in nothing. Bring yourself to terms with non-existence. That dark. Because that dark has been convincing us that the real me that I want to be doesn't exist, so I'm not happy. So when we go into that zero space of nothing, willing to die, to be reborn, bro, wow. Like this image you have behind you, this backdrop, what happens inside of you is this. And then you see an aspect of what you really are. And then your momentum increases. And then your love and your fire for yourself increases. As long as you're going inward, you're moving upward, you're moving forward, you're moving toward. Spirituality is not hard. People try so hard in this pseudo-spirituality. It's beautiful. It's all beautiful. But for you to have a shortcut, it's not about struggle and strain. It's about just looking, seeing, being, free, allowing, joy, being the gate, being the fire, being yourself. Everything else is bullshit. And when you find yourself in that place, you go, oh my God, I remember this. The angels sit up there and watch. They're not in the nonsense and in the swirling of the cesspool. They don't involve themselves. They can't. Not only because it would change our choice, they would impinge upon our free will choice. They would get suckered into the cesspool themselves. Now they're lost in the current with everybody else. So it doesn't happen. So when we get out of the noise, just simply the noise. Yeah, but Keith, you don't understand. You just gave yourself a phenomenal excuse not to follow the model I'm offering. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say, you already lost sight of the garden. Suddenly, through the silence, the new world appears. I have shifted, and I dwell in that reality. I do. And I can see it falling itself and kissing you on your face as well. You're very light-natured in your skin. I can see it in your skin. I can see it in your face. Many people are dwelling in that kingdom. Many people are trying very, very hard, and they're actually overshooting their target, and they miss it every time.
Great response, Keith. Absolutely awesome response, man. What I'm gonna do here, because like, the stupid internet is so dodgy, man. Like I said, I had somebody. This is very unsettling. But here's what I'll do. I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. But I would like to come on any other time that you're interested, man. I love having you here on the show. I could sit and talk to you for another 4 hours if time allowed. Believe me. Are you okay with?
You blacked out on me. I'm okay. I'm good. If I got your question correctly.
I'm going to shave off
if I got
10
all of
minutes
the
for the show
questions.
tonight. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever you got to do, bro. It's all good.
God damn it. It pisses me off. Okay, here we go. When we talk about God, this is going to be a very general question, but something that is something to talk about at the very least. When most people talk about God, why is there always this separation in the narrative? There's no one. Most people don't talk about God as if they were a part of God. It's always something else outside of them. Is that just influence from our past religions, or is there something going on in our lives in respect to the duality that continues to bring people to the perception of this separation between them and the source?
My mentor many years ago, if I would say something, spirit is coming through me, he goes, horseshit. He would say, why are you creating such division? He was that adamant. He would say, bullshit. I don't believe it. There's no spirit coming through you.
I like that. No, but I like that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I totally get it. Some people want to hear that, need to hear that. They don't know how to process that in a way that is beneficial for them. So I went from being a teacher into a teacher into let me go inside, let me channel God, let me channel my soul, Yanava. It's still part of my makeup. It's still part of me playing in the human game and enjoying it. And it's also a way for me to honestly describe to the listeners that when I close, this is Keith. Nothing changes when I do this, except I use my eyes closing from distractions to get out of, to fall deeper into the Keith that is me when my eyes open. And when I really start going inside, I am actually able to call up a deeper part of myself, which is the same self with his eyes open having this conversation with you. So I say I will go into vessel. I don't use the word channel. That word has been so perverted, I ain't want to talk about it. So I use the word vessel. I say I go inside. But my mentor would look and goes, you ain't channeling nobody. But also in the regard of seeing God as up there, it does create a factor of humility. Because some people can walk around boasting around full of arrogance, thinking, I'm the it of the universe. But the idea is that humility creates this lower posture, being humble, which actually lifts a person beyond how close they are to the ground. So at the beginning of one's spiritual path, be it in religion, and then they shift to spirituality, or even in their early walk of spirituality, you will find people who are everyone should always be humble anyway. The Buddhists are not stupid. They live their whole life like this because they know this is their connection. In such a way, at first, we pray. Please help, please help, please help this person, myself, the world. When you realize, after you've expanded into the wholeness of who you are, who in the hell are you praying to? You're praying to yourself. So why would you go to Yanava or Keith Blanchard, I'm praying to you? So what we do rather is we start pushing versus, dear God, would you, we still do some of that, but we don't do, dear God, would you help my friend who's sick right now? We actually take charge. We say, I am pushing the energy to my friend who is not well versus, will you please do it? Because from the adolescent or the immature spiritual point of view, people say, God, take this away or do this thing. It doesn't work. That's why you got to be careful when you get on the internet and say, where are my prayer warriors? Because you're allowing a whole bunch of consciousnesses to come together and support you You have to be careful. If they're not clear, they're causing you more damage than they are good. So at the beginning of our spiritual walk, we pray to say, we're asking for help. Beautiful thing. A beautiful step, and a necessary step. But later, we realize it's me. So we start doing the pushing for the healing of the person ourselves. We take over. It's like we're trying to convince God. All right, 4,000 of you said this prayer to me. What do you think I should do? You think I should believe? You think they convinced me? All right, you've convinced me. I'm going to come down there and help you with your situation. What is that? So when we take the responsibility to send our loved ones healing, you're praying to God. You're actually allowing God, that is the soul of yourself, come through to do what it needs to do versus I'm trying to convince you to go help someone who's in trouble. I am connected to the source, asking what I think is something so separate from me as the source to go on the other side of town to drop, an Easter egg of blessings on my friend. When I just say, I'm just going to send you some blast. There's a big difference.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Trying to convince God, praying to Him,
that makes
please
sense.
take care of my friend.
It really does. Sorry?
No, I didn't say anything.
I've also heard too that, fucking internet. I hear stuff here, and it's not even you. So I've heard in the past that sometimes, yes, you want to help somebody, you want to be able to, lend a hand in the time of need. But sometimes there are instances where you want to interfere with somebody's life path in a respect. Like they might be, all right, I'll give you an example. Let's say, we'll take Carlos Casta's example very quickly here. He was upset when he hunted rabbits because once he catches the rabbit, he has to kill it, telling him, well, it's once the rabbit is caught, whatever rabbit is caught inside there, it's his time. You just have to trust the universe that it's been brought to you, and this rabbit is sacrificing itself on a higher level to allow existence, physical, and so forth. And he, Carlos still was very on the edge about this. And sure enough, they caught a rabbit. And while he was standing there arguing with his mentor, the rabbit got into such a fright that it ended up kicking somehow and breaking its own back, thus killing it. Now the mentor turned around and said, look, it was its time. You can't disrupt necessarily the flow of somebody else's path. And sometimes I've worried if stepping in might be more of a hindrance to somebody, again, in certain situations, rather than a helpful hand. What do you think?
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
You go to a psychic and they give you a reading, and they tell you need to be careful. 2 weeks from now, you're gonna be in a car wreck. But so 2 weeks from now, you're driving down the road, and you remember what you were told, and you bring forth the very fear because you're driving now. Now you're scared because you remember what they told you, and now you're not clear, and said car accident happens, and you go back and tell your friends when you get out the hospital, man, that psychic was real good. They told me it was going to happen, and it sure did. Likewise, right? Likewise, we all bring things to pass, even like in the Matrix. And be careful about that lamp. Don't worry about it. And he knocks over the lamp. She says, I said, don't worry about it. So in the moment that you are afraid of something, we think that being afraid of something protects us from said something that we are afraid of. Tell that to a dog when you scared the shit out of that dog that's looking at you. He doesn't understand that logic you're running through your skull. All he knows is that you're projecting your nonsense onto him, and he doesn't like you for it. And in the moment, he's ready to serve you what you are doing, what you are due. So yes, absolutely. This happens all in a matter of a moment. Some of these moments, they all happen in the moment because how you feel is the reality. Now, the event of how you feel about pro or con may take some time to manifest itself, and that is the benefit of time. Time creates a buffer between our thoughts and feelings and the manifestation of said reality. Because if not, reality would happen like this all the time, and we could not process our fears. Imagine all of your fears just simply magically appearing in front of you. You would fall into trauma, eternal trauma. You can never get out of it. So time is a way that we can gauge how we're doing in our life, so we can refine the process to get a little better. So time is really a benefit in this way, because without it, that dog would bite you.
Very, very well said, man. Very well said. Well, with that being said, as it is, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. Keith, I think we're going to wrap up for now. But this has been an awesome time. I have loved every single one of your responses, as I did the last time we were together. And you once again blown me away in the best of ways. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us this evening. Please, again, folks, check him out. And everything is in the description at the bottom there. I'll try to find that video that he was recommending. There's several of them out there, but let's see if we can find the one he was suggesting. And I'll try to put that in the link with the sand in vibration. It's fascinating stuff if you haven't seen it. It will really make you question the nature of certain reality that you might already think you know or have a handle on. But check out Center of Light TV. That's on YouTube. He has a great YouTube channel. Please check him out. And again, he's got plenty of other links in the description. He's an author of the latest book was Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Did I say it right?
Sure did.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Fantastic read, by the way, folks. I did read it and it was awesome. And hopefully sometime I'll get to sit down and just talk to Keith about that specifically. Maybe that'll be the next show. We can see.
Love it.
But thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, bro. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate my time with you. I love your energy. It's delicious. It's fun. It's light. You care. I can see that you care.
Well, I appreciate you very much, mate. I'm going to take you off for a moment. If you don't mind sticking around, say my proper goodbyes off camera, and we'll wrap up for this evening. Thank you very much once again, Keith. Thank you. I love it. Guys, thank you so much for being here once again this evening. I saw every single one of you in the chat tonight. I got Dolores, I got Joey Hayes, Lori Oliphant. Thanks. It's nice to see you guys here. I know a lot of you in here. Scotty, all my mods. Well, both my mods. No, two. I didn't see Big Cat tonight. It's okay. Cool. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. Thank you for hanging in here with this goddamn dodgy internet. I do everything I can to fix this stuff, and believe me, one of these days it's just gonna stay smooth. I'm gonna find the trick here. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. I am on a mesh router, but we don't have to get into that on the show. If you want to support DHP, go right down in the description. You can find a PayPal account where you can do just that. If you're interested, we'll be back tomorrow night with Richie from Goof On, who is up in about a half an hour. Please go and check him out on YouTube. Does a fantastic 2-hour show every single night, along with premieres that he sprinkles in the mix as well. Fantastic narrative he puts out, and great opinion as well on a variety of different topics having to do with UFOs and paranormal. And we also have Frapsap. You guys know him as Frapsap. My friend Robert Rivas will be back tomorrow, who is an archaeological encyclopedia, to say the least. And with all the esoterics put into that, this man has a lot of information, and I know he's come up with a great presentation for you guys. So we're going to have a good time tomorrow night. Please be here if you can, 8 o'clock Eastern time and 5 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow night, Saturday. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you being here. Let's bring this one out and around. All right. Have a great rest of your night, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.